This episode of Archispeak is brought to you by Arcat. What's the one thing we all do in our practice? Search the internet for content, right? Well, we wanted to let you know about Arcat.com. Arcat is an online resource devoted to bringing content to the building professional. They have huge libraries you can access, and they don't hit you up for subscriptions. There are no fees, and they won't make you register to download content. We've all been there. You finally find the right file, and you get blocked with a registration pop-up, and you think, thanks for wasting my time, I'll find it somewhere else. Arcat's BIM library is really second to none and available in just about any format you need. In fact, their entire BIM library is formatted to the last 5 versions of Revit. Their CAD detail library has thousands of CAD details, and if you need specs, the Arcat library is the most consistent library you'll find. Every single spec is written in the CSI 3-part format. There's so much more on their site, including catalogs, videos, and a spec wizard. Go to arcat.com or download their app to check it out. It's a great free resource, and you don't have to register to use. Check it out today at arcat.com, arcat.com, and don't forget to provide feedback on their site. There's a button on the right-hand side of every page. Have a suggestion to make Arcat better? Click the feedback button and let them know, and tell them that Archispeak sent you. Thanks, Arcat, for sponsoring this episode of Archispeak.
Imagine a world where you can explore buildings around the globe, including ones that don't yet exist. A world where you can walk the edges of an under-construction high school in Los Angeles, then toggle over to the emergency department of a new hospital in China. Hi, I'm Chris Grant, Creative Director at HMC Architects. We're using virtual reality as a design tool that allows us to explore architecture in an immersive way from within. From this vantage point, we can experience a project as if it was built years in advance, improving collaboration and appreciating the full scale of architecture. In VR, our clients can step inside their project and feel as though they can sit on furniture or reach out and grab a handrail. This allows them to react to design decisions as if they were there, driving new questions and decision-making opportunities from within the virtual space. At HMC Architects, we believe that operating as a tech company will not only benefit our clients, but also shape our world and enrich people's lives. To learn more or become part of our story, visit hmcarchitects.com.
Welcome to Archispeak, the podcast that talks about what it's like to work in the profession of architecture.
Welcome to episode 121 of the Archispeak podcast. I'm Neil Pan.
I'm Evan Troxel.
And I'm Cormac Phelan.
Hey, this episode, we got a great question from one of our listeners, Steve Hall, friend of the show. And Steve is starting up a podcast, and he asked if we had ever done a show on what equipment we use. And so we started to think about that and kind of put together some lists of all the different, we all have different setups. And then
Wait, you created a list? Did I miss something here?
mental list.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then we started to kind of think a little bit bigger about just kind of the tools we use for communication. I mean, obviously podcasting is a communication medium, but then we started talking about different ways we communicate in the office. And so if this conversation goes there, that would be probably beneficial as well. But we'll just start off with our podcasting tools. And so we thought it would be kind of interesting to just talk about some different types of setups that we use, because I think we all agree here that the equipment is relatively important to get a good professional quality sound. But beyond that, man, there's just so many choices. So we just thought we'd give a few examples of maybe some hardware and then kind of what goes on behind the scenes. All right, so we kind of talked about this in episode 100 with Life of an Architect, Bob Borson, and we talked a little bit about behind the scenes, but we didn't get into tools. And so it might be interesting for some of our listeners to who are thinking about doing this kind of media to talk about equipment and process and software. And then if that bleeds over to architecture, that would be fantastic as well. But we'll see if we could squeeze that into this episode or if that might end up being another one. So Neil, I know that you've got a podcasting specific mic setup, and it's pretty simple, right? It's just microphone into computer. So why don't you start off with what you've got for that.
Sure. So I have a Blue Yeti. It's a USB microphone, and it just plugs directly into the computer, and you just change your inputs to the microphone. What's nice about this one is it's not very expensive, a little more than $100, and it's a really decent quality mic. It's not something that's several hundreds of dollars, and it's not something very cheap because it does include a microphone input on the bottom. So I have my headphones plugged directly into it. It also has a mute button, and it also, instead of using it as a desktop model, where if you bump the desk accidentally while you're recording or something, you would pick that up. And so in my setup, I actually have it mounted to a shock mount, which Blue also makes. And then in addition, I have just a relatively inexpensive, maybe $25 stand. So the microphone actually stands or is connected to the boom stand that's just on the ground, completely separate from the mic. So nothing I do on my desk interferes with the sound that it's recording. And then also too, I think very important is to have that pop filter. So the pop filter is connected, and it's a really basic setup, but I think it works really well.
Awesome. And so this, you said it's just it's probably in total less than $200, you think, for the whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And Cormac, you have a completely different setup, right? You've got more of a portable system. We've actually used it to record like at the AIA convention, but you use that as your full-time hardware interface too.
Yeah, mine's the cobbled together hand-me-downs. Because if anybody's listened to the show from the very beginning, knows that my audio has been hit or miss, and Evan's pulled his hair out on numerous occasions dealing with my audio. Back in the day when he was doing all of the editing, and
back when we were amateurs, and now we're serious professionals.
Yes. So I started off with just kind of your original kind of, I had a headset with the microphone built in, kind of what you would do on a conference call or Skype call at work, which is what I have at work. And it was pretty bad. And as we heard, in those early episodes, it was really bad. And as we started to
taking it back.
Yeah. And as we started to evolve,
sample here.
Neil was like, I can't do this anymore. Can't take this. And, was gracious enough when he got his Yeti to send me his Blue Snowball. And mostly I record with that, but more recently I've been just trying to try out a new microphone. But the much like what Neil had, or Neil was talking about with his Yeti, my Snowball has got the kind of the shock mount and the pop filter. It is, however, just kind of on a stand that sits on a desk, less than the stand, kind of like the freestanding stand that Neil's got or you've got, which, yes, I know I need one.
Take it to another level.
But since
there's still room.
Yeah, but since we've done a lot of mobile shows, especially during the AIA convention or MDC, I started to look at things that we could do mobily, and so invested in an Apogee mic, and that's exactly what it's called. It's MIC, and it's a great $200 mic, and it's you can control the gain up and down on directly on the actual mic itself. And we've used this a couple of times, both with Neil did his interviews at the show, but then we've been able to plug it into the laptop and just using a MacBook Pro, again, a hand-me-down. But you plug everything into the MacBook Pro, and the good thing is that we can plug in multiple mics to it, and we've used it that way before. Didn't we do that at the last AIA and that we went to?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. And they're great, but I've also used the Apogee mic to record things on my iPhone, and does a tremendous job using the Apogee app. You just download the app, you plug in the microphone into the... I have one where I've got to take the USB and put a USB to Lightning adapter and then plug it in and start recording through the Apogee app. And good quality. You can control, again, you can control the gain, you can control the noise levels and everything else. And it's a really good, intuitive, both mic and app that you can use on the phone. And so that's pretty much what I've been using, and that's the setup. Most recently, I've been kind of using specifically the Apogee app. So I've been trying to mess with or play with the way that the sound is, because I know that we all have 3 different mics. And one of the things that my wife's noticed is that my audio always seems to sound probably a little hollow or a little flatter than both of your audio. I was trying to convince her that it was the equipment and not me. So I wanted to just kind of flip back and forth. And so you guys may have never noticed this, but I kind of, every once in a great while, I will switch between the 2 mics, the Snowball or the Apogee, just to see if I can control the audio quality and get a little bit better at it.
A lot of that can be compensated for in our editing software too, with equalizers and stuff. But that's a whole other science to get into. Yeah.
Well, so what do you have?
So mine's more of a intensive setup, because I've kind of cobbled mine together over the years. Some of it from back in my band days, and then moving into podcasting. So I have 2 separate units here. The first one is the one that connects to the computer. So my microphone does not go straight into the computer. So I basically have a dedicated setup on my desk all the time. And because I'm using a laptop, I just come in and plug in my one USB hub, which has everything connected to it. So obviously running through USB. But I have a Yamaha AG06, which is an audio interface for the Mac or for PC. It's a USB audio interface, and it accepts 2 microphones or an instrument. So for me, it was more about just having options. If I wanted to record music versus podcasting, it'll handle both. So it's not just a vocal setup. So that's where I control my gain input. That's where I can control, like Neil's, my headphones are plugged into that. And so I'm not running like an audio into my computer and then out of my headphone jack. Everything goes through this one device. And so that allows me to monitor what the sound going into the computer sounds like before it even gets to the computer. So it's a real true signal at that point. So I can control volumes. It's got a bunch of knobs on it. We'll put links to all this stuff in the show notes, and we'll hope that you purchase it, because we'll get a little kickback from our Amazon affiliate link if you do that. But that's the idea there. It's like lots of different options. So inputs, outputs. I also have a set of kind of desktop speakers that are plugged into that thing. So I keep audio on this device for everything. So then connected to that is my microphone, which is more of like a stage mic. And this is a Shure Beta 87A super cardioid mic. So it's a condenser microphone, and it's really for vocals. But it's got a great sound to it. I mean, it's just one of those bomb-proof microphones that people would use in concerts, and you see the rock stars slamming them on the stage, and they just keep on working. So for me, it was like this thing is just going to last forever. I can do lots of things with it. I can use it for vocals. I can record music. I can do podcasting. I could mic a guitar with it. It doesn't matter. So it's got, again, just gives me lots of options. It is on the higher price side. It's $250 just for the microphone. But like I said, this is going to last, for 50 years. And it's just XLR input. So that's it's not a digital input into the computer. And so it plugs in via what's called an XLR cable into the Yamaha audio interface. So it's more of a traditional music microphone at that point, or for vocals specifically. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what it sounds like is you've been cheating.
Yeah.
Neil and I have been
kind of going grassroots traditional, and you're going all pro on us.
Yeah, I got more pro setup here. That's for sure.
Well, you started that way, right? I mean, you didn't buy the Yamaha to record with.
Right.
And
right.
You didn't buy the mic to record with for the show.
So I can plug my electric guitar or my bass into the Yamaha, right? Because that gives me recording abilities. It's more than just a vocal setup. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, cheater. And so what the microphone is sitting in a Rode, RODE, what do they call this? They call it like a swivel mount. So this is like those old school spring-loaded desk lamps that we all had at our drafting tables back in the day.
Still have.
It's one of those. Yeah. It's one of those, but it's for a microphone. So it's got a mic attachment on it. And what that allows me to do is just kind of move this thing around wherever I need it. And it holds it steady, but it also, again, like Neil's saying, it kind of separates it from the desk. It's on springs. So if the desk gets hit during a recording, it's not going to pick it up in the microphone. So it just gives me that disconnection from the desk. Because one of the things, I don't know how many podcasts everybody who are listeners listen to, but a lot of times the microphone picks up everything. And so if something happens in the room where the desk gets nudged or whatever, it just telegraphs through the audio system. And that is not something that is easy to remove later. And so anything that we can do to kind of make it a clean recording from the beginning, we try to do that. So that's really kind of the idea behind getting the microphone up off the desk. And so, Cormac, you need to do that.
I was going to say, before you said that, I was going to say it sounds like a veiled attempt to tell me something, but you just took the veil off and said it straight out. So,
let's not hide this.
I hear you. I got you.
Yeah.
Maybe
going to the mattresses here.
Maybe at show 200, I might get my stuff together.
And I think it does matter what kind of room you record in. I mean, we've done recordings out in the open, right? Neil did a bunch at the convention, and all that background noise, there's nothing you can do about it. And so anything that you can kind of do to set up your room with absorptive materials, you don't want a real live room. I mean, my room that I'm in now, it's a pretty live room, but because there are some curtains in here and there's some rugs, and it really helps a lot. And anything that you can do to kind of deaden the sound in the room for this type of recording is a good idea. I mean, there's lots of musical kind of recording scenarios where you want a more live room to get some of the reverberation, but when it's just purely mono vocals, that you really want to try to deaden it as much as you can. So like Cormac this morning, you turned off your air conditioner, right? I mean, it's that kind of background noise that makes its way into recordings that you really want to try to avoid. So sometimes podcast listeners out there, just know that we are truly suffering when we record these podcasts because it's 100 degrees or it's freezing and we can't run the heaters and we can't run the air conditioners. So we get blankets or we just sweat it out.
Yeah, I've had a few below zero in the basement. So actually, real quick, let's talk about the rooms we're in. Just, you started talking about you being in a live room, and I just want to know what the environment each of us are listening in, because maybe in how we combat the noises and stuff that we have going on, because maybe that might help somebody who's just kind of doing this on their laptop at their kitchen table.
Well, I'll just finish up then with mine. I mean, my room that I'm in has like a VCT floor. It's a vinyl tile. It's got wood paneling on the walls, so no gypboard. And I have a T-bar ceiling, so there's some acoustic value maybe in this ceiling. And then really what's saving me, I think, in this room is just curtains, because my house is so old. We haven't replaced all the window coverings, but we've got a bunch of like drapery in this room, and that I think is really helping. And we put a big rug in here. So all of those things I think just kind of help even it out, what would normally be a pretty live space.
What about you, Neil?
Well, before we get to my room, the other thing is typically we record either very early in the morning, as we're doing now, or at least East or West Coast time, or we're recording very late at night, East Coast time for you.
It's always very early. Let's just put it that way.
That's true. It's very early for you, one way or the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that also helps, is just your environment. Recording at these times, everyone in my house right now is asleep. so there's no extra noises coming from around. I think that also helps because, as Evan said, the mic picks up everything. So I try and tell my family when they're not asleep, it's like, okay, Dad's going to record. Quiet. Don't be stomping around.
And sometimes that stuff happens,
like that.
and
it
we
does.
and it's just normal life, and we don't get crazy about it. But
what's nice is when those noises happen, when the person who's not speaking is speaking, then it's really easy to edit out.
Yeah, exactly.
So my room here, it's actually, I would think, a very live room as well. It's hardwood floor. There's gypboard on the walls, but I don't have any drapes or anything like that. And I've got a sliding glass door in front of me and a window off to the side behind me. But I think the one thing that helps me in this room is that there is a number of books and bookcases with things on them that I think helps deaden the sound a little bit.
It helps kind of disperse the sound waves in lots of directions, so they're not coming right back at you with the microphone.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is what's helping. There's a lot of crap in this room. So I think that's what's helping me because I think I've never heard you complain anything about the sound that's necessarily coming from the environment that I'm in.
Right.
So, but I do think though that the setup, I mean, your voice has always just sounded incredible, Evan. I think it's much.
I work on it all the time.
The buttery smooth vocals from Evan. I think the setup actually shows. I mean, you certainly have the more pro setup here, and at least when I'm listening, it definitely shows. I think I've got probably the most basic, relatively inexpensive sort of setup, and it sounds decent.
Sounds really good. No, it sounds great. It's not even worth changing, right? I mean, it's that good.
I think if anybody's doing a podcast, what I have you can do really great with that.
Totally.
And even with what Cormac has, I think maybe a tweak or two is perfect.
Just getting it off the desk, right? That's all you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing. Although Cormac's really good.
All right.
He never hits he's only hit
you got the hint yet.
The last episode I edited, I think he only hit the desk twice. No, maybe 3 times that I remember. But usually he's pretty good about that. But so that's...
Well, he gets pretty animated.
I was going to say, I do talk with my hands, and everyone's great while I do hit the desk.
It's all right. As long as you're not talking when it happens, then it's not a problem.
So Cormac alluded to this earlier, but when he said he started, he was using a set of like earbuds, right, Cormac?
Oh,
yeah.
And so we haven't talked about headphones, but I think we're all using the same set of headphones now. Is that right? We're using the Sony MDR 7506s, which is just kind of a good, well, I should say great set of headphones.
Yeah, it's
really comfortable to wear for hours at a time, as we have all attested to.
Yeah, over the ear.
But the important part about those, real quick, is that they isolate the sound from getting back into the microphone. And that's really the important part. And that's why I make the distinction of this kind of a over-the-ear headphone versus an earbud type earphone that is not kind of sealed from the outside.
Because as we were talking about with room environment and everything else, the microphone does pick up. And on occasion, prior to me switching headphones, my mic would pick up audio that was coming out from the headphones, and you get
a slight echo.
So yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's an important piece of gear that we should definitely mention. And this set of headphones, I think, like I said, just proven over time to be a great set of headphones. So we'll have links to all this stuff in our show notes, which again, you can find on any episode on our website. On the right-hand side, you can sign up for the show notes to get emailed to you, so you can check out all this stuff via the links that we post.
So what about your room, Cormac?
My room. Well, we'll definitely say mine's the most Spartan of all of us. much like my podcast setup.
So mine, I think mine is kind of like yours in that it is the room that catches everything.
Yeah.
So
I'm in an unfinished basement, and I am somewhat surrounded by bookshelves and air hockey tables and drafting desks and things like that. But it is, and I did put carpets down on the ground, both for just inhabiting down here, and it's not cold, but also something conscious in the decision to help deaden the sound and help avoid any reverberation or echoing and bouncing around, So I do have carpets all over the place. But for the most part, I mean, it really is just a very bare concrete walls, exposed wood. I'm unfortunately immediately below my kitchen, which so when my family is awake, of course, I'm texting down below saying, please don't walk around or please be quiet. And they're like, but I'm hungry.
You've got like that cool old 80s intercom system between the rooms of your house, right?
Yeah, it's called our iPhones.
Yeah.
Shush the kids, please. And my wife's like, shh, shh, shh. So it really is. Actually, we should talk about how much of a team effort this is outside of just the three of us.
Yeah.
How our family is very much, kind of
put up
a team
with.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, like, all right, I'm going to go record. Ugh, God.
Right.
So we've got to be quiet for how long?
Again.
In our house, it's like, okay, no streaming.
Oh yeah,
you can't stream television shows.
That's another thing.
So when we record here,
we want as much bandwidth as possible.
So the only thing the kids can watch is either something that's already downloaded, or they'll watch a show that's pre-recorded off the TiVo, or something just on regular television, because that doesn't affect the bandwidth here. So
no, that is purely a first world problem.
Yeah,
well, it totally is.
I think
right?
the point of bringing that up is that we all record. I mean, and this is kind of the behind the scenes software side of it now, but we all record our own audio on our own end,
right?
And then we end up mixing all that together. But the Skype call itself that we're having is a 3-way call, and that is our only backup, and so. That's why you need the bandwidth, because we really don't need the bandwidth if everything works out great and all of our single-ended recordings work out fine. But if something goes wrong with somebody's equipment, then all we have is that single mixed call as backup. And you guys know as well as I do, we've used that lots of times to get the show out. So where something else went wrong or whatever.
Somebody's hard drive crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. That happened. We
Right.
lost a recording. So,
yeah. So that's the reason why we need as much bandwidth as possible. And that's why we don't allow other people to be streaming while we're recording the call. And that's usually why we're doing it after hours or before hours, because that kind of activity isn't happening. That's one part of our behind the scenes. The other part is, I guess we should say that we use Ecamm's call recorder, which is a Skype plugin, to do that recording through Skype. So Skype by itself doesn't record calls, just the basic consumer level Skype. I mean, Skype for Business is kind of a different animal. We're not using that for this. So we all use Ecamm's call recorder, which I think is $30, if I'm not mistaken.
it is $30.
30, 35, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then
$29.95.
you plug that in, you don't plug it in literally, but it's a plug-in for Skype, and then you hit record, and it saves an audio file that then gets separated into 2 separate tracks. So then you get your side of the recording, and you get the other side of the recording, whoever you're talking to. And so then we upload each one of our own's track 1, which is our sides, and then we mix all those together in Logic on the Mac to get a multi-track recording.
Yeah, first we've got to split the track.
Yeah.
So we split our individual tracks from the group call. And so we get our side and then the group side. And then we upload each of the individual ones and assemble it in Logic that way.
So I did a lot of work in Logic to kind of get the audio sounding even better, like sweetening the audio. So we cut out any background noise that way. We enhance a little bit the original recordings with different types of compression on each track. Ultimately, we mix all that together with our intros and outros and ads and everything into a single mono 64 kilobit per second audio file. It's an MP3 at that point. And who knows if we'll keep using MP3 forever. But for now we are, because it gives us the smallest file. And the reason that's important is because smaller files download faster, and they take up less bandwidth for our website, which allows us to have more people listening to the show without paying exorbitant costs. So there are other types of audio files that people put out there. There's been many times when we either have or almost have put up a stereo file, which is double the size because there's 2 audio tracks instead of 1.
I'll check next time. Seriously.
No, me too. And so like we've noticed that's happened, and we've had to swap out that file at the last second, or maybe even after a few people have downloaded the stereo version. And the only reason we do that is just to make sure that we're saving as much bandwidth as possible, because it literally is half the size. The mono version is half the size of the stereo version. And so once that, we post those to Squarespace, which is our service provider for our archispeakpodcast.com website, which has a really nice integration for podcasters built in. And we've never had an issue with any downloads. We've never had an issue with the site going down. I mean, it's just been a rock solid website host for us. I think you guys would agree that the whole process for getting podcasts up has been fantastic.
I totally agree with you.
So we can't say enough good things about Squarespace.
We've needed kind of an idiot-proof type way to post and things like that. And since I'm the test idiot,
You're the crash test dummy.
Yeah, exactly. It's been, every once in a great while I may have a hitch, but for the most part, it's easy, and the more I do it, the more I get the hang of it, the easier it is. But it's got a good tutorial to walk you through it, and it really is kind of just a no nonsense way of being able to manage it.
And we've been using that since the beginning, so we've never changed that up. It's always been rock solid for us, and it has automatic hooks into iTunes, which is kind of the podcast resource library for all podcasts out there, and then it automatically gets distributed from there to the feed. Basically is accessible to any different service, so it automatically works with Stitcher, it automatically works with Google Play Store, whatever that's called. And there's all kinds of different systems out there for downloading podcasts. I mean, a lot of times people are just dealing inside their favorite app nowadays. And so basically those, I believe, are all pretty much using the iTunes catalog to access podcasts.
Right.
So one of the cool things I think about that's going on with podcasting right now is we just heard some recent news, because Apple had its Worldwide Developer Conference on podcasting specifically, that Apple's going to be doing a lot more behind the scenes, kind of at least exposing the data of how many downloads you're getting from your podcast, just the analytics side, which has always been kind of notoriously hard to understand or track. So we've been using a third-party service for that called PodTrack, which is just podtrack.com, podtrac.com. But I think now, at some point soon, we're going to be able to just get that info straight from Apple, which I think is going to be a little bit more robust than what we're getting now, right? So that's kind of an exciting development that's just recently happened.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Other than that,
because it's been a big black box,
right?
And it's very difficult to kind of understand how many people are listening and downloading, and so I'm looking forward to actually getting a little bit more information.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much talks about everything. I mean, I guess just to kind of finish up on the Squarespace thing though, real quick, it does all the heavy lifting for downloads, for show notes. We have another system in place to automatically kind of create our show note email that goes out. So if you sign up on the website, we don't have to manually put that together anymore. We've hooked up a way for that to just build off of what we post in the podcast episode itself. But I think that's about it, unless you guys can think of something else.
I think if anyone is looking to start doing a podcast, or you've already started one and you're looking to improve how you do it, I think and we're not necessarily the experts, and I think that there's probably more you can do, but I think the general setup that we are using works really well. It does take a bit of work to put together. I mean, all of this stuff didn't just happen overnight, right? I mean, I think it's pretty clear if you go back and listen to the first dozen or more episodes, we have clearly learned over time things to do, things not to do, and how to make the equipment and the setup and the whole process a little bit better. And I know there's a conference coming up called Podcast Movement later in August that I think I'm the only one that's able to actually attend out of the three of us for this. But I'm really looking forward to going and attending some of the different conference tracks and sessions just to learn a little bit more about how other people are doing it. So not only, have we been doing this for almost 5 years and certainly know a few things about how to do it, but we're looking to improve ourselves as well. And how do we do things even better? So I'm looking forward to doing this. If anybody's interested, it's podcastmovement.com, and it'll be in Anaheim this year in Southern California. So, and it's August 23rd through the 25th. So if anybody's interested, they can definitely check it out.
That is not a paid advertisement.
That is not a paid advertisement. No, I wish they. Yeah. How do we make that work? Well, that's actually going to be one of the conference tracks. I think is certainly how do you make it profitable, or at least maybe not profitable? How do you deal with that?
Make it pay for itself.
Make it pay for itself. Yeah, exactly. So, but I think we should really thank Steve for asking us about our setup, how we do things, because I think there's certainly a lot of other people that do it differently. I know some people that do daily podcasts, and their setup and process is completely different than how we do it. And part of that is because it's just faster. They don't do a whole lot of editing. I think that's something maybe we didn't really touch on, Evan. I mean, we mentioned Logic Pro,
right?
But the amount of work and effort we all put in to edit the show, to try and get the sound better and tighten things up. And I think also too, something that we've all worked on over time is just maybe how we speak is important, because I know we've all spent a lot of time editing and maybe taking out sections or things that we commonly do in normal conversation that maybe doesn't sound good when you're listening. So there's been a lot of work that we've done.
Gotcha. I understand.
Trust me, in editing this show, we all have our own little ticks and different things that we do. And, we all try, sometimes I spend more time trying to clean it up and other times not.
Right.
I know, Evan, there were a couple of times just due to timing, or we were on the road and you just kind of put out more of a raw episode, and we got some feedback on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my God, did we?
Well, it wasn't that bad.
Well, I think something that's important to point out is that you do not have to do it that way, but we do, because I think we're all kind of craftsmen in some way, some shape or form, and we're all kind of designing this as we go. And so if we can make it better, we do. And if the constraints are such that we can't, then we still put the show out. But we're always trying to make things better, and we're always kind of designing it as we go. And sometimes we design it to a point where I remember editing an episode where we had a guest on, I think it was Rosa, and I ended up kind of changing the flow of the conversation because the way we recorded it didn't make sense. And so that's a lot of work when you're starting to get in there and cut things up and move them around and try to keep track of the timeline and make the conversation flow like you really are. It's like doing details in drawings when you're trying to make two different materials come together in an elegant way. That's kind of what it felt like when you're editing a podcast. So there are definitely shows out there where no editing happens at all, and that's just how it goes. And I actually would recommend, if you're thinking about doing podcasting, to do it like that from the beginning, because the way that we've done it is it's a ton of work, and it can be. It's as much, it can always be as much work as you want it to be or more. So trying to limit the amount of work that the podcast is to actually produce will just save you a lot of time and mental stability, I'll say, and
anguish.
It's just one of those things where if you decide up front that this is how it's going to be, it just makes it a lot easier, rather than just kind of like because I'm a designer, you can never stop designing. We all know this, right? Like the project's never done being designed, that's how a podcast can be too. And so you could just continue to edit and whittle, and then you end up kind of torturing yourself. So watch out for that. That's all.
Yeah. And that's how we've really kind of approached this podcast from day one. I mean, we had our rough spots early on, my audio and things like that. But as we really started to hone in on it all and, start getting things correct, we really tried to do our best to kind of increase the quality of the way we speak and all of that other stuff. And I'm the biggest culprit. I'll live up to the criticisms that we had about the ums and and things like that. And
wow.
Sometimes I would like some other people to record at 2:00 in the morning and see how coherent you are.
See how well it comes out. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's why we've done more episodes. To be honest with people, early on Saturday mornings we've recorded, but it's like 9:00 for you and 6 a.m. for us. And that seems you're more on and justifiably, right? It's just early morning instead of like really early morning. So
right, now it's I'm fresh. My mind's a little bit more awake. Normally, my mind is trying to go to sleep.
Right.
And so when I'm trying to cobble together a stream of consciousness, most of the time it's interrupted with a and a
Yeah, nature wins, man.
Exactly. Nature does win. And unfortunately, a lot of people have picked up on that. And, justifiably so, because we are trying to put out a quality show. And I really want to sound a little bit more coherent and a little bit more intelligent than I actually am. And, and sometimes it just doesn't work out that way.
Okay, so let me ask you guys something. So since we've all been editing and we've all taken turns doing it, Evan did, of course, the bulk of all of our editing for, I think, the first 90 or so episodes. And, I don't know how you did that, but what have you noticed, though, that, I mean, we all listen to podcasts, and so even our listeners have, they listen to other podcasts. So what's interesting,
oh my gosh,
and now
no.
this is, of course they do, right? I mean, we all listen to other things too. But have you guys not noticed, and this is I'm gonna drive our listeners now insane, because now you're gonna start thinking about this when you listen to other shows. Do you notice the different either quality or how they're speaking, and in other shows that you listen to now that we've all produced the shows many times, and I don't know about you guys, but I hear it in other shows now. And if somebody is speaking, if there's literally several podcasts where that has annoyed me so much, I stopped listening to them.
The thing that I listen to some that you would think, because they have a production budget and probably a star power behind them, that you'd think that the show would be better produced or better audioed. And a lot of times I'm sorely disappointed in the audio quality. So it's not that I shut them off. Sometimes I actually have. Sometimes their audio quality is so bad that I just decide I can't listen to it anymore and kind of shut it off. But a lot of times I'll listen to it more kind of critically so that I can figure out a way to get better for our show.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And I think we just care more, is what you're saying.
Totally. Hollywood.
Well, there are some shows that are incredibly edited, right? Like Radiolab and
Radiolab,
like anything from NPR, where that actually is done in a proper studio with an engineer, an audio engineer running it. I mean, so those are different other level.
But then, on something like Radiolab, you hear them at the end of the show thanking about a dozen different people that were involved in producing that show, right?
Oh, let's do that at the end of this one.
It'll be a very short list.
No, we'll thank everything that we do, but we'll just keep thanking each other.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Neil.
There you go.
Evan.
One thing you touched on earlier, Evan, but I think it's important. Well, us being architects, and you mentioned details and just, I think we care about the quality of the show from a production standpoint.
Nice qualifier.
And it was why. Well, I was thinking, how much preparation do we? You mentioned list at the top of the show. I'm like, wait a minute, did I miss a meeting here? I don't have a list.
We don't do meetings,
or preparation.
I think that since we're recording our audio here, and for advice to anybody that's doing this, the reason we do that is because, and it's already happened even on this recording, there's been several times where Skype has kind of garbled a little bit about what you're saying. And so
hell, I dropped off the call.
Yeah, that's true. But nobody would have known that if you hadn't have said it, because we'll edit that.
No, we won't.
But those things happen. And if you're just using the Skype call or just recording just the raw audio from Skype, you're going to end up with a podcast that has issues, and those issues aren't easy to solve. And when we record and locally here, even that garbled stuff that I've heard already this morning on this recording, nobody will hear any of that because I'm getting your raw audio directly recorded on your machine. And I think that it's more work, but it just makes the show sound much better.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it that way since the beginning.
We have. And although there's been episodes where we've recorded other people and they haven't had that ability, and we really want to thank our guests that have gone to the extra step of getting Call Recorder and using it for us, because I think it helps those shows tremendously, and that we don't have to worry about the call quality on Skype.
Yep. Well, I think we've run out of things to talk about here. Our cool tools for podcasting episode is fairly complete there. I mean, there's definitely a lot of kind of behind the scenes additional tips and tricks for specific things like Logic or how to set up a lot of this stuff, but all that stuff is out there. It's all on YouTube. It's all on the web. You just got to kind of piece it together. So it's all out there. You just, if you're interested in podcasting, feel free to ask us questions though, if there's anything that we didn't cover or that you still want to know about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, something else to add, Cormac?
Well, I was going to say, and I know we hit a lot of stuff, and I know it sounds pretty complex, but I'm a good example of how non-complex you can make it, because I really do have a laptop with a microphone and a set of headphones, and that's all I really have other than the software to kind of back me up. Mm-hmm. And so it really isn't as complicated as we may have made it sound, but
no, this is a culmination of 5 years of doing it, and it starts simple.
Yeah. We've been working at this to try to kind of like hone it and learn it and learn it and learn it and learn it. But it really is, and Evan, you said it best, there's a lot of how-to videos out there that really kind of help you understand how to put it all together. And we aren't experts, but we're experienced, and we can help with anything. Again, you said ask the questions, please ask questions, because the thing that I've noticed over the 5 years that we've been doing this is when we started, and I remember when Neil first kind of posed the idea, it's just like, well, nobody does podcast. Nobody's going to listen to an architectural podcast. Not what we were shooting for, because we were looking for kind of like the how-to of the bit, not really the how-to of the business, but we were looking for, how the business is run, and those just impromptu conversations and things like that. And everything that was out there was more about, kind of the highbrow kind of thoughts and concepts and in design and stuff like that of architecture. And we kind of wanted to talk about what, the architecture really was. And we never really thought one way or the other if we were going to have an audience. And it's great. It's awesome that we do. But now more and more people have been getting in on this, and more people have been talking about our trade, and more people have been jumping in and telling stories and having these conversations and stuff. And it's been great to see the podcast kind of devoted to architecture grow and grow and grow. So don't think that it is a daunting task. You'll pick it up And if you're passionate about it like we are, you'll get there.
Yep. And like we said, ask us questions if there's something that you're still trying to figure out or need help with. I mean, we've pretty much done all of it. So we're a self-performed work here.
Yeah.
we don't farm any of this stuff out.
We understand the mistakes and we understand the successes.
Yeah, so we appreciate everybody getting through our mistakes. I think one last thing that I'd like to add is that you don't have to go out and spend $3,000 or $4,000 on a computer to make this happen. I'll be the first one here to admit, and Cormac, I think you're working on some older hardware as well. My iMac that we do all of this from, or that I do all of this from here, is an early 2009 iMac. And it's 8 years old, and I'm still editing in Logic, and we're still recording on it, and it can work fine. So you can even have an older machine, and you can make this happen.
I've got a 2008 MacBook Pro or mid 2008 MacBook Pro, and again, everything's just kind of cobbled together, but it works. All of the software itself is updated. And as long as you are all on the same software, we're talking kind of more group rather than individual. Individual, if you're not doing interviews and you're just talking, it might actually be a heck of a lot easier than what we do. And then you may not need, some of the more fancy gadgets of like Logic and stuff to do all of your editing.
Yeah, I mean, you can do this and even in GarageBand. So that's free. So. And there's other tools out there.
Or Audacity, but even now we're starting to see these podcast production websites, like this cloud production stuff set up, like Zencaster. There's quite a few of them out there now where you can pay kind of a monthly fee and do unlimited guests, unlimited recording. I mean, they automatically do post-production. You can upload an intro and an outro, and the audio editor is in the web browser now. So you don't even need a dedicated piece of software. It's pretty amazing what the whole industry of podcasting has turned into. So to start a podcast has never been easier.
Yeah.
I mean, you really don't have to wait to have all the right pieces of gear. You don't have to wait to understand how to do it in the software. I mean, you've got to just start if this is something you're interested in.
Does this not remind you of like blogging from 10 or 15 years ago?
Yeah, totally.
It's not hard to blog. Actually, the hardest part is the content. The rest of it is
showing up.
Right. Just showing up, right? Every week or every 2 weeks or every day, to whatever your show is doing or your blog is doing. So that's actually the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, guys. Well, hey, you know what? We got to thank the people that are helping to pay to make this happen here. So to wrap this episode up, we want to thank our roll credits. Yes, let's thank our sponsors, and we've got two great sponsors, and you've heard about each of them before. But I want to make a mention that this episode's being sponsored by Arcat. Make sure you check out all the features they offer, including their cool charrette. Actually, I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and they are using charrette to set up a project team and to share the project. And so I'm looking, hope to get some really great feedback from that. But you can check them out at arcat.com. That's ARCAT.com. And we're also once again sponsored by HMC Architects. We want to thank them for their support. To learn more about them and become part of their story, or I should say maybe become part of their story, visit hmcarchitects.com. And we want to thank both of them for their continued support of Archispeak. So remember, you can also find out more about the show and see all of the different episodes, to check out all the different items that we mentioned in this episode, and then go buy them on Amazon. Go to archispeakpodcast.com, and there you can find our catalog of episodes. Sign up for the aforementioned newsletter for links to everything we have in the show, and then also between episodes, join in on the conversation by either visiting our Facebook page or via Twitter. Links to everything can be found at archispeakpodcast.com. And thanks everyone for listening, and we hope you learned something on this one. And stay subscribed, and we'll catch you next time.
Happy podcasting.
Happy.
I joined the choir to sing. They're all competing for some other thing. I joined the choir to sing. Vibes at the home. How you doing? What you doing, boss? With my people who know how to roll. Spend time with folks at home. Now I like it hot and mighty. With my people who know how to roll. I joined the army too. I joined the army too. I lost my ass to please number two. I joined the army too. I serve my nation under God. Service my city with all that I've got. But when I'm running, pleasure is here. So I run, I'm meant to run, this is prayer. I serve my nation under God. Service my city with all that I've got. But when I'm running, pleasure is here. So I run, I'm meant to run, this is prayer.
And we're out.
This week's episode is brought to you by the silky smooth tones of Evan Troxel, the semi-silky tones of Neil Pan, and the gravelly shit voice of Cormac Phelan.
Nice.
Yeah, that'll be cut out.
That'll be the intro.